thought I was going to make the NBA. Yeah, it's your boy Crispy at the Keep It Crispy podcast. Man, this is actually the first episode that we're ever going to shoot for this brand new podcast that is literally years in the making. This is something near and dear to my heart, and I can't wait to just push out some crazy content and some beneficial and powerful messages. We're going to be interviewing a lot of dope athletes regarding their stories coming up and how they got to the place that they're at, their aspirations, their journeys, their workouts, and also how fashion and athletes can like combine to make a powerful message. I mean, it's going to be crazy. There's a lot of dope individuals that we're going to be interviewing coming up on the podcast. I mean, I'm just excited. We're here at the new Crispy warehouse, by the way. This was a long time coming, man. We set this up to make sure that everything is totally clear and legit. Top of the line equipment. I mean, everything literally is the best it can be in order to push out some great content to you guys. So I'm excited that you guys are on the journey with me. I mean, it's been a rough one, I'll tell you that, but it's all worth it in the end. So to speak a little bit about it, that's what we're going to do here on episode 1. We're going to talk a little bit about how I grew up and the background story for how I came up with Crispy, why I'm doing this podcast here, and, you know, the goal and the message behind this whole entire movement that we have. We have a huge community over at Crispy NYC, and it's just growing from there. So, I mean, personally, for me, I grew up here in New Jersey, in Lodi. I've lived there for almost my entire life growing up until I was like 15 years old. While I was growing up, I grew up in a single-family household. Never had a father, never knew who my father was at all. It was just literally me and my mother. No siblings, me and my mother, my grandma, my uncle. So it was a tight-knit family. And, you know, it did teach me a lot of things because growing up, I didn't have that much money. A lot of my friends had all these cool stuff that I always wanted. I just was never able to afford it. And that's kind of the push that drove me, you know what I mean, to create a legacy for myself and my son. So as I was growing up as a child, all I would do was play basketball. That was my first love, literally, was basketball. Everybody used to be like, yo, Crispy, because that was my nickname as well back then. My first name is Chris. My last name is Spiteri, so Crispy. And that's how Crispy really began years ago. They would say, yo, Crispy, let's go out and chill with some girls. Where's your girl at? And I would just be holding the basketball outside till literally the sun went down till midnight, playing all day long. My mom had to be like, hey, Chris, you got to come in. Like, it's already 12 o'clock, and you're sitting there at 11, 12 years old playing outside by yourself in the freezing snow. Like, my hand, I couldn't even feel my hands. I had gloves on, and I was just playing no matter what, rain, sleet, or snow. And that's what I was known for growing up. I mean, it was crazy. Like, I would always travel by bus or train from where I grew up in Lodi to New York City. And with my basketball and my headphones, the old school Sony headphones, they looked like this, but they were like little skinny circles. It was crazy. And I would travel to New York, and I would just go to West 4th Street or Dyckman or Rucker Park or any court that I seen was popping. And, you know, I would just play, and I would get picked up. I was always the shortest person on the team, but I had nasty handles, and I always thought I was going to be Stephon Marbury. That was my favorite player growing up. Crazy. I had posters, magazines, cards, you name it. So it was a fun time. Like, I always believed in myself that I really thought I was going to make the NBA, you know, even at a young age. Like, I really, really, really thought it, and I was working literally so hard towards it, and I guess that's where I got my work ethic from, because I always thought big. I never thought, you know, small and the average, you know, type of thinker. I was never like that. And I was always, since I can remember, I was ambitious. I was taking risks. I was doing all sorts of things that people were like, yo, why are you're not afraid to do that? I ain't afraid of anything. Because at the end of the day, when you're living life, the only thing guaranteed in life is taxes and death. So you might as well just live it up while you're here. That's my motto. That's why you have the world. That's why we have the world is yours sign right up here. It's to show you that the world is literally yours. Like, don't be afraid. Go out there. Go get it. Take risks. You're not going to know nothing grows out of comfort zone. So you got to get out of your comfort zone. You got to take risks, and you got to go crazy. That's what it is. Like, you just got to be out there. You got to go get it. Nothing's going to be given to you. You have to go out there. You got to knock on doors. You got to pound the doors in. You got to smack the shit out of them doors and throw your feet through it until you get through it. So that's how I always live life. So when I was in high school, and it was probably about junior year, I was 15, 16 years old. I moved with my ex-girlfriend at the time to Boston when I was still in high school. And I would never been to Boston in my life. I knew nobody there. But guess what? I was always an ambitious type. I wanted a new environment. I wanted a new background. So I picked up myself, started myself up in school, ended up graduating high school all the way in Boston. Then I went to college probably for like not even a year, and then I dropped out because it just wasn't for me at all. I played in like a community college, Roxbury Community College, for basketball. I was a walk-on, and then it kind of hit me like, okay, school is definitely not what I wanted to do, because I was always the type that I wanted to try new things, and I knew that my ambitions and God's plan was something bigger for me than just, a regular degree and getting a regular job. So I couldn't do that. So I tried a bunch of different things after that. I came back home to Jersey, and I worked for JP Morgan Chase Bank at one time for about 2 years. I was one of the top sellers at the bank. No matter what I do, I always go full throttle, no matter what it is. It doesn't matter what kind of job it is or what kind of task that I have. I don't care. I'm going 1,000%, because if I start something, I'm gonna go through with it 100%. So that's what I did. So I was there for a while, got fired from that job. That didn't really work out. Then I chose the road of, this was probably one of the best times of my life. I was with my man DJ Bakan. He's one of my best friends, Yoshli. He was a DJ at the time. This was about 13 years ago, 12 years ago, at La Mega 97.9 over here in New York City, one of the biggest Latin radio stations, and he was one of the most popular DJs. So he would go out and he would be doing DJing clubs and all these huge events, Madison Square Garden, and he entrusted me to manage him and to be like his right-hand man, which taught me so much. At the time, I was dealing with a lot of stuff, a lot of stressful stuff, so it was a real sad time for me. But he got me out of that zone and introduced me to a whole nother life I never even knew existed. And I was around people that were making, so much money that I couldn't believe it. You know what I mean? And it opened my eyes. I'm like, I cannot settle for anything less than what I know that I can be capable of. So I rolled around with that for about 10 years. I met some amazing people, amazing artists. I grew a lot of friendships there. After that, I did my own thing with a marketing company called CP Marketing Group, which was pretty cool, because I would do, a lot of different things for restaurants, for nightclubs, social media stuff. Like, it was literally working on my own. And, if I didn't put out the work, I wasn't getting nothing. You know what I mean? It's not a 9-to-5 check. You got to be out there in the streets, and you got to be hustling. If you don't hustle, you don't eat, period. So I did that for a while. And then I told myself, you know what? I need to get my money back up. I need to have, something coming in which I could save and do more with my life than what I was doing. So then I ended up working at T-Mobile. And at T-Mobile, man, that was a great time. We was in the middle of the hood in Newark. That's my place, man. I love everybody there. I was there for like 3-4 years. I was grinding, selling phones, making real good money at T-Mobile. One of the top representatives for selling new lines and all that kind of stuff. I met a lot of amazing people as well. I connected with so many people back then. And that's when I started my first brand, which was called Misery Loves Company. So I started with that with somebody else. And we started that probably, I would say, 4 years ago. And it was more like a luxury type brand. It wasn't like what we're doing now. It was kind of like a high-end type, pieces and French terry, really heavy duty, 300 grams of cotton T-shirts and stuff like that. So it was definitely a cool experience. It got me, thinking of how I could be more creative in the fashion world, and that's what got my juices flowing. So I did that for about a year. It didn't really work out. Just mutual agreement. We decided to part ways, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna start Crispy NYC. Why am I not gonna start Crispy NYC? Like, that's literally my name that I've been growing, up. Everybody's calling me Crispy. That's my name since I was a little kid. You know what I mean? And plus, I thought it was a dope. Time to actually push the word and the positive vibes that I always have growing up. So I was like, you know what? Let's do Crispy NYC. That's how we started Crispy NYC. And also, each letter of the word means a word. So each letter of Crispy means something to me. C is courage. R is relentless, I is integrity, S is self-love, P is persistence. That's how I live life every single day. I do things the right way. I don't mess around. I don't stop until I find out that, you know what, I achieve what I want, and I'm going to overachieve it. And I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. You know why? Because I have something to prove. That's why. I have something to prove. And especially to my son, I have to make sure that I'm doing everything the right way. And I'm showing him that the world is his. Anything is possible. You literally could come up from nothing, oblivion, from somewhere that no one ever even heard of, and you can make it out of wherever you're at right now, and you can make a difference in the world. So that's the reason why I go so hard, especially once I had my son. I'm like, you know what? The time is now. I got to create this legacy right now. I have to make something. I can't have a little child look up to his father and be like, oh, yeah, my dad is just, comes home every day and he goes to work and he's just an average Joe. Nah, that's not me. That is not me. I'm shaking up this whole industry, and I'm making a name for myself and for him and for years to come. And then that's the reason why we started Crispy NYC. So ever since I started that in the very beginning, it's a very hard journey. I'm going to tell you that right now. Imagine you trying to build a brand. You don't know that many people. You know what I mean? You don't know anybody that's in the industry or anything like that. You're just pushing out a positive message, and you're trying to get as big as possible and get to have as many people eyeballs on your product as possible. So in the very beginning, I'm going to tell you, it took like 2 years of straight losses. I was putting up so much money every single year for the brand, hundreds and thousands of dollars of free gear, of samples that I would send out. Everybody thought I was crazy. You know what I mean? There was no sales coming in for 2 years straight. The first year of the brand, I made under $100 for a year. Think about that. You're pushing out so much energy and time, and you only make $100 in a year. That means you only sold like 2-3, shirts or hoodies or whatever it was at the time. Like, most people would quit, but I don't quit. If I start something, I'm not quitting. I'm gonna keep going. And I'm gonna make this thing the biggest clothing brand and sports related athletic wear brand, positive message behind it in the entire world. And that was the goal from the very beginning. So throughout the first year, I would be hustling as I was working in T-Mobile. I would come home, even while I was still there, I would be working on the brand every single day. I would be posting. Maybe I'll get 2 likes. At the time, I had like 200 followers. It was crazy. You know what I'm saying? It was crazy. But I seen the vision of where this is going to come. And we're just literally in baby steps right now. This is only 3 years ago. Literally 3 years ago. August 1st was the 3-year anniversary of Crispy. So now we're in our 3rd year. We're finally making noise where people actually realize what we've been doing for this whole time. But the come up was real, man. The come up was very real. And that's why when I first started the brand Crispy, I wanted to incorporate athletes into it, because I know how hard you guys work every single day, day in and day out. And sometimes people don't notice. And then all of a sudden, the whole world knows your name, and you're in the NBA or you're an all-star, but they don't see the grind for the 10 years before, where you were busting your butt every single day in high school while you had classes, then in college while you had classes and practice and everything. They don't see all that hard work. You know what I mean? And not a lot of times do people know about the stories like that. So I think it's a perfect, intangible, a perfect relationship between my brand, Crispy NYC, the podcast, Keep It Crispy podcast, and athlete's journey. So that's why I wanted to start this podcast, because it relates so much to my come up with my clothing brand. So fast forward after the year, my second year still only made, probably about $2,000-$3,000 the entire second year. You know what I mean? It was a small little increments. But what happens is when you plant seeds, no matter what you are, if you're in business, if you're an athlete, if you're practicing, whatever you're doing, you're a musician, you're a rapper, you're whatever it is, you plant seeds, all of a sudden those seeds start to grow. But it takes time. So you got to remain focused no matter what. You can't be messing around. You can't be distracted. You got to have laser focused, tunnel vision throughout the whole journey in order for you to be able to succeed and see results, because it just takes that one time for you to be able to blow up and then keep going. So the 3rd year changed everything for me. I was able to leave T-Mobile, which I was making really good money with. I was almost making 6 figures a month as a sales rep in T-Mobile, and I literally dropped everything and I ran with Crispy full time. I even moved to Miami for about a year to build the brand in other places. You know what I mean? It was definitely a struggle. It was definitely a struggle. Sleeping on the floors, you know what I mean? Not having a place to stay. It didn't matter. I was going to do whatever the heck it takes to make this work. I didn't care what happened. I was going to make this work because I made a promise to myself and to the people around me that believed in me that I cannot slow down and I cannot backtrack. I got to keep going and going and going and going. So finally now, we're 3 years into it. The brand is doing very well. Nowhere near where we want it to be or nowhere near where we envision it to be. But I'm blessed to be where I am with this brand new, warehouse and the Crispy headquarters. It's amazing. And I feel like, you know what? If I keep going, I mean, it's only up from here. Legit, it's only up from here. So while I was doing that, I decided to start the podcast, Keep It Crispy podcast. Here we are. I wanted to do something different. There's a lot of podcasts out there and, a lot of shows and YouTube videos and stuff like that about, motivational stuff and finances and things like that, which are cool because I'm all about it. But I wanted to incorporate athletes into this. So that's what this is all about, showcasing all upcoming athlete stories of from where they started to where they are, their goals. How does fashion play into it? Because fashion plays into a lot of different sports and athletics, especially, the tunnel fits that you see in the NBA games, the NFL games. It really sets the trends of how fashion is. So I think that's an awesome, relationship between the two. So I figured, let's start a podcast. Let's get these stories out there. Let's get people fired up. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people out there that might be touched by your story. They just haven't been able to hear it. Now we're going to give you guys a platform for the world to hear what you guys are coming from and what you guys stand by and how Crispy is going to be able to help with that as well throughout our powerful messages, throughout all of our pieces here at our headquarters or whatever it may be. So I'm super excited. Wanted to come on here, share a little bit of background about me. A lot of you guys are probably wondering, background and how I came up and how I, grew up and what my interests were and why I started the brand, why I'm here today, why I'm doing a podcast. So I hope that answers a couple of questions. I mean, this is episode 1. We got plenty of amazing guests that are going to be coming on here, sitting right next to me. And it's going to be amazing content for you guys. I'm excited. Wanted to hop on here. And most importantly, you got to keep it crispy. Get fired up.